From Brisbane, Australia, this is episode 78 of The Normal Blokes, a podcast dedicated to improving the competitive 40k experience. I'm Denise, and today we've got Luke.
Hey guys, how we doing?
And Liam.
Good evening.
Alright, so as a final last hurrah for 2020, the year that was, we are going to run through some of the top meta lists. We're going to go down memory lane, remind ourselves of the list that gave us the headaches this year.
Please make it stop.
I'll just continue to talk shit for another minute, Liam. But we're just going to go through the list that, scared the bejeebers out of us, that surprised everyone on the scene, and essentially how they worked. And we're just going to reminisce a little bit of the tournaments we didn't have this year. But boys, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, good. Keen to recap. This will be the last episode for the year before Christmas festivities, so it's going to be a good one. We're going to have a good new year and another good year of 40k.
Yeah, so
2021.
If this goes well, this will be released on Christmas Eve 2020, and just like to say thank you everyone who's followed us throughout the year, and since we've started, I know we tried to improve the frequency and the quality of our recording. I know recently, last few episodes, we've had some issues on our audio, and we hope to fix that today. But yeah, thanks everyone for your support. But I guess we'll dive straight into it. We'll start with you, Luke. Throw us a list from the annals.
Oh, yeah, so I think at the start of the year, this was everybody's the Boogeyman list. It was terrifying. The Iron Hands Flyers, which we didn't see too much in our local Queensland meta, but we did see a lot of it at CanCon and LVO. What did you guys think of the Iron Hand Flyers?
Yeah, the old Air Force list.
Yeah, the Mech Air Force from the Space Marines.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. And I mean, I think some of those lists got really annoying because it's like, I have this vehicle that is hitting on twos, rerolling ones without any characters or buffs. It's just like essentially got Chapter Master, ballistic skill, and rerolls for free. It was pretty silly.
Yeah, it was crazy because like they could all operate independently, and during the time ITC was obviously the big play style then, and they could easily get you killed and recon, and they'd go and pick off little backfield objective units that people would have, because most lists would have a few queens, as we call them, like, which are the big heavy hitters, and then a few like little backfield holding objective troop units that would just die to a stiff breeze. And they'd be like, yeah, you won't be able to get to them because you've got to deal with this. And then there's these Iron Hand Flyers that just dominate the board, that basically hit like Chapter Masters in fucking airplanes. It was good.
Definitely, like the way 8th edition played, they suited it so well. You could get a kill off them. You held, like recon space with them, and the Storm Talons, especially in that list, could hover. And then on top of that, you've got the ground forces, a couple Thunderfire cannons, and some artillery, and the land speeders that they had as well that could actually keep up with the planes. Like the list got pretty strong, really quick.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like the popular plane was the I think it's Stormhawk Interceptor. Is that it?
The anti-air one?
Yeah. It was innately neg 1 to hit, and then it was neg 2 if you had the fly keyword. And this thing had like ridiculous amount of shooting for, I don't know, it was like 140 points or something like that. Something ridiculous.
Because if you were Mekta or Tau, like, you couldn't play into that, man. You're hitting it on 5s and 6s.
Yeah, it's like you're a Latok fighting a Latok, but they hit on 2s and you hit on 5s.
And their planes like 50 points cheaper and have more wounds and higher toughness and in every way better.
And a feel no pain. Yeah, that was pretty impressive. I just remember seeing, like, watching a list, especially at LVO, just watch the Iron Hand list just walk through a lot of people all the way up to like the final few rounds, and then it kind of got separated up the top tables.
Yeah, I know here in Australia we had Walduck, and then Lee Abbey played some planes down at CanCon. And
he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
And in America, I'm pretty sure Adam Abramowitz won Warzone Atlanta with an Air Force list.
Did he really?
Yeah, it was the one he won. But yeah, what were you saying?
Good on him. Oh, I mean, like, just like another name for this episode could just be lists that GW buried or FAQ'd or like wrote out of existence. Because man, you can go back through. Like, to be honest, I'm going to give them credit. Like 2020 has been a roller coaster. A few things that happened this year, you may have heard of them, and like, despite all the like, serious world issues going on, GW for like I reckon the first half, maybe like 3/4 of this year, were actually really active, and that they really FAQ'd a lot of things that was silly and sort of became quite involved. I feel like they kind of fell asleep at the wheel at the end of this year, but I think they did a pretty good job for the majority of it. Like FAQing things like, the Ironstone, when that was a thing. Oh my god.
Oh, that was horrendous. That was.
And Ferios. Ooh.
Well, look, that's a great segue to actually move into another Iron Hands medalist, the triple repulsor that we actually saw towards the end of 2019. Luke, can you shed a bit of light about this one? Now, this wasn't technically 2020, but Mr. Pierce had a great rundown at Menza with this.
Oh yeah, it was the most oppressive.
And under that bus.
Liam, it was funny. Liam built a list specifically designed to beat it, and it relied on RNG hopefully blowing up a tank per turn, and still it was so hard to just chew through, because if you flopped, the vehicles were T8, 3 up save, 5 up imbo, and hit on 2s, and you could heal them 9 wounds a turn. And repulsor executioners at the time, how much were they? They weren't that expensive.
They were like 300.
They were like 280, 300, yeah. And they would neg 1 damage always, all of them.
And a 3-inch bubble from some hero from the Iron Hands.
Some ludicrous tech marine.
Yeah. That was pretty impressive.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that was at Menza Masquerade, which is where I played it, and that's like it's hosted by Jeremy Martino, who does a great job every year. But typically a lot of Australia's most competitive players head to Melbourne for the weekend there, and there's some super competitive lists, and it was me, myself, and Lee Abbey, I think, and there was a bunch of other people who I can't remember running the exact same list. And the day of the tournament, the FAQ dropped, being like, yeah, GW admits that they screwed up the Ironstone, so we're going to run this FAQ today. And everybody was looking around like, what? What do we do? But it was just a joke.
Yeah. That was funny as.
Man, you thought he was serious? Because I remember, like,
you guys both looked at me, and I was like, "Oh no!"
I remember going to Ben and being, "Yes, they've done it! They've cucked all the Iron Hands players." No, it was not. It was not to be.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
Oh man!
But yeah, it was just you had to beat the list, and it turned a lot of people very sour during that time, and understandably, because it was just.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. I think it was because Iron Hands went from an army that no one had played for 2 years in 8th, and then all of a sudden, like, do you remember the Infinity Gauntlet meme, Luke? Where it was like everything that they got, like, in the Infinity Stones on Panos' hand, like, it was exactly that. Like, out of nowhere, this little supplement, this little chapter just got everything, and it just no one could interact with it, and it's thank goodness they FAQ'd that.
The thing is, Denise, is like, I mean, I know, like, I guess for a while there, Marines in general were bad. Like, for almost 2 years, they were essentially trash. And then the new Marine book boosted them a lot, and Iron Hands took them to, the stratosphere in terms of competitiveness. But, not even last edition, the edition before that, Iron Hands were the most oppressively ridiculous Marine army then as well. Yeah. Like, you used to have this Iron Hands build, and I forget how it works. Forgive my language, listeners, but there was a character that the internet lovingly dubbed Smash Fucker.
Smash Fucker.
And Smash Fucker, was a character with a 2-up armor, 3-up invo, 3-up feel no pain. In addition where almost nothing did multi-damage. So, like, having a 3-up feel no pain was ridiculous. And then he used to give, like, if you ran their version of, like, a battle demi company or something, everything had a 5-up feel no pain, and then you could give them +1 feel no pain. So your army had, like, army-wide 4-up feel no pain on infantry and stuff. And it was just like, what on earth is going on here? These cyborgs sent from the future are killing everything. And it was the most ridiculously oppressive list at the time. And then, the edition changed. And then it's almost like, the Earth turned around 2 more times and Iron Hands are back, baby. They're back now. Like you would have thought GW would have learned that first time round where they made them silly. But man, they really gave them all the stones to that Infinity Gauntlet. Like, it's absolutely silly.
And then I guess we saw the ultimate evolution, the final form of that list in, we had two things going on at the same time. We had Chris Wright winning CanCon, with his Leviathan Iron Hands, and then we had Richard Ziegler taking out LVO with the Breviathan. So, Luke, you'd probably know out of all of us, what was involved in, that kind of list, that archetype of list?
Oh, the Breviathan list was just, I think this is where the Ironstone got FAQ'd, so it would only affect one model. And then what people proceeded to do was take a ridiculously strong shooty unit and make it so it couldn't be charged with the Wall of Trade, because the Wall of Trade allowed it to fight and fall back in any direction, so it could fall back out of combat. And you just Ironstone it, and it was a Leviathan, so it was T8, 14 wounds?
Yeah, T8.
2 up save, 4 up imbo, and -1 damage with the Ironstone. And this thing pumped out like 20 shots at BS2, basically BS1, because you could give a +1 to hit at strength 7, -3, 2 damage flat. So it's just this walking absolute monster. And you could give it a 5-up feel no pain with
with the trade.
Yeah, so it's just like if you shot this thing, it was just a bait. You could not possibly kill it in a feasible amount of time. And then the other thing was, I think this is when Iron Hands hit the apothecary that gave them the 5-up feel no pain.
Oh yeah, the father of the future.
Yeah, the father of the very future. He was a father that we all didn't want, but we got.
Creepy uncle at best.
But yeah, so it was just this horde of Iron Hands infantry with 5-up Invo, 5-up feel no pain, that just could not die, and this Leviathan that wouldn't die as well. Yeah. And it was just a super oppressive combination that could just walk up the board and dominate the entire board, and there's nothing you could really do to shift it.
Yeah,
I know, I get that. We all, I think, burst a version of that list at some point. But I would actually say the privilege of playing Chris Wright for the win at that CanCon that he won. I played last round against Chris Wright. Playing 30 flash kits and 250 Griffins. So I'm glad I made it that far. I was 7-0 at that point with that list. And seriously, that list was so good at the time, because essentially what I noticed people were doing, and Chris Wright and Siegler did almost the exact same thing. They had intercessor squads of like really random sizes, but the reason, like 6 or 7 models, but the reason they did that is that at the time there was I think it was called Marked for Death, one of the secondaries you could pick for ITC, where things had to be over a certain power level to be picked. So this Marine army had like Adelanocite shooting, a crazy sort of Death Star dreadnought, and then loads of squads of intercessors. But there was never enough units for you to actually kill it, even if you could, and get points from it. It bled no secondaries. It was honestly a perfect list for the format. Like it's really, if you actually think about it, like there was so much effort, I think, that actually went into making this list airtight. Like it was a peeled vacuum. Nothing got out.
Yeah, I actually think, I remember listening to Siegler on a podcast saying that he came up with the list idea with a group of other top competitive players. I can't remember who he said they were. And they all, I think it was John Lennon and the other guys, but I could be wrong. But they all came up with that list idea together. They created this absolute beast of a list that they thought couldn't be.
Well, that's why they called it the Breviathan, right? Like the Brohammer guys all took it to LVO.
That's right, yeah, they all took it.
And even Chris Wright was saying, him and Connor Keane spent a lot of time fine-tuning the list, how it would go in certain matchups, like the Imperial Fist matchup and the Mirror match and everything. And like you said, Liam, like when you play it, the pun not intended, the Iron Hands did not bleed any secondaries.
The flesh is weak.
And I've never heard that quote so many more times out of the blue, and I've never heard it before.
Oh god.
Yeah, there were so many memes. So many memes.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, anyway, we'll shift gears out of Iron Hands, and we got some good Psychic Awakenings towards the start of the year. One of the cool ones I kind of want to touch on is the Grey Knights, mate. The Grey Knights. Tell us all about that, a bit about that, Luke, because I know you had a bit of success with them.
Yeah, so the Grey Knights was another oppressive list. It's the be shot from out of line of sight, can't do anything about it list. It was very, very fun for a lot of people to play against, where they couldn't do literally anything for half the game. And then the Grey Knight player would basically come out and finish off what it was left. So you'd basically just have the double Paladin bomb, 20 Paladins just shooting insane amounts of damage and clearing whole units off the board, not giving up any secondaries, never dying as well. It was just a super, super awkward list to play against. And particularly, we talked about this at the time as well, having units that could shoot from out of line of sight that were also super durable was insane. There was nothing that could really counter that, because artillery at the time was one of the big things. You'd always experience like the Imperial Fist artillery, but it just wouldn't be able to punch through the sort of, 2-up save, neg 1, or 1-up save, neg 1 to hit, -1 damage going on.
And
plus you'd take, 20 mortal wounds a turn.
Yeah.
As soon as you got close.
Probably one of the dumbest things about that list was, and again, this kind of goes back to, I guess, a bit of an addition change as well. When that came out, right, we were still playing ITC missions, weren't we? Like, we were still playing, and in that format, kill more was half of your points. So
exactly,
you spend half your army on characters and paladins, and it just wins the game. Like it's like you were rewarded for taking the least tactically flexible army possible. It was very bizarre. And I mean, before the Smite change too, which is a more recent phenomenon, you're right. Like, it wasn't even that unit could shoot and was durable and could hit in combat. It's that even if you were all of those things as well, they'd just mortal wound you to death. I mean, it was even worse if you were playing demons. Like, as you guys know, I played Death Guard for a while, and there's a lot of demon engines in that army. And I played, actually, Luke, to be honest, man, it might have been you. I think this one game I'm thinking about, where I had like a PBC out the front of my army, a Plague Burst Crawler, and you did like 4 smites to it. That's all you needed. 16 mortal wound just kills it outright. And I'm like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. Like, what is this? It's like 3 characters in a strike squad just kill a PBC with mind bullets. Like,
yeah, that was funny. Because you were like, yeah,
every
I'll
smite
screen
is
this.
4 mortal wounds. Oh.
And you were, I don't think you were familiar with how much damage it could do to the Plague Burst Crawler. Because you're used to being like,
stunned.
Plague Burst Crawler never dies. It never dies. And then 3 Grey Knights units just went, oh, here we go.
And
I see you've got that demon keyword there, buddy.
Shouldn't have brought that with you today.
And here's the thing as well, like, Grey Knights could do these things, like they could smite, they could shoot through walls before it was Ritual of the Damned, I think, that they got all their updates. And the second that book came out, though, it added so many things. Like it added, that neg 1 to wound. It added litanies for them. It added a swathe more psychic powers, like shooting in your psychic phase. And
Edict Imperator. What were they thinking? Oh my god!
Oh, you've screened out the whole board. Edict, you're done. And then, you just edict and then gate into the hole that the edict made, and then, it gave them so many options. I mean, if you say
edict fast enough, it almost sounds like the Grey Knight players saying edict. Like, it's just, it's the word. Like,
we are the hammer, mate. We are the hammer.
We are the hammer. But then, what? Hey, hang on. Let's make the army CP reliant, but we'll give them a psychic power
never mind.
To get more CP. That's a good idea.
That's so funny, especially when 9th rolled in. I mean, GK got hit a little bit in 9th, but the fact that GK were getting 2 CP a turn, because they chucked the power as well as the free one. Ooh.
That was really, really crazy for a while there.
Yeah. Well, and, hot off the tails of that, we got Blood of Baal, boys, and from what's known as a great counter to this GK Menace was the Blood Angels.
Yeah, so, a humble 10.
They were pretty prevalent for a while, weren't they?
Oh man, yeah, 10 Death Company. That'll pick up some tallies, that's for sure.
10 Death Company would pick up anything in the game at that time. And there was nothing you could do. That just 10 of these like small Marine 1 wound models at the time. Just go, come in from deep strike, 3d6 charge, bang, everything's dead that you cared about.
So, DAs is interesting.
I know we talked... Sorry, you go.
No, you go, Liam. I was just going to talk about that list.
Oh, well, all I was going to say is, like, I mean, at the time, I remember, like, we spoke about it quite a bit, and we, Blood Angels are good because they have these stratagems and whatnot. And now I look back on it, and I'm like, what the hell? Why were we not whinging about this more? I mean, Blood Angels is like dedicated melee Marines. Normal Marines can hit hard. These are the dedicated melee Marines. I got it. Why don't we give them stratagems to teleport across the whole table and automatically make charges? Like you almost can't fail a 3d6 plus 1 with a reroll. Yeah. And even better, let's give them a relic so they can reroll any or all dice for their charge rolls. That's a good one too.
Yeah.
And it was like, literally, I mean, look, if we're going to put a Christmas theme in, it was like, you better not run, you better not hide, because that Death Company is literally going to kill you no matter where you go or what you do. It was ridiculous.
So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Like, Blood Angels, all through 8th, were predominantly played as an ally to Imperial armies. And, they came out with Blood of Val with two big things that they got. The first one was Doctrines. And, the overlap from the Marine book being litanies and things like that. The second thing they got is their chapter tactic changed just very slightly. They kept their +1 to wound, but they also got a +1 to advance and charge. And that, I think, was the tipping point for Blood Angels going from, they're a good army, but their delivery systems are limited to, now an 8 entry rollable charge, you can reroll any dice, see ya, you're in combat. So people just started playing these bricks, like 3 bricks of 8 to 10 Sanguinary Guard, the accompaniment of characters, the banner that gave them a Feel No Pain, maybe the banner that gave them a +2 movement, and then a single unit of Death Company to hit before that. So, like, the Blood Angels player goes first, the Death Company unit just kills whatever. Like, just goes in, kills, like, 10 tallies, whatever. And then all the Sangard and all the heroes are in the middle of the board, and your opponent is like, holy shit, I can't kill all those bodies. And you just win.
I think, it got pretty out of hand, I think, when, I forget exactly when it was, but Mephiston also got his Primaris model. And I remember going to like 2 events in like a month where you looked at the list and there were always like 5 or 6 of these lists with Primaris, Mephiston, Libby Dread, 15 Death Company with a bunch of hammers, like they were, and then Death Watch. It was like the other half of that army.
Yeah, it was. Silly. Yeah, fact, it was.
I mean, Denise, you repped that for a long time.
It was perfect, man. It was absolutely perfect. The Death Watch was resilient. It had good shooting, and the Blood Angels were just the best hammer ever. Add a couple of Imperial Fist Thunderfires, maybe a Hyperios. You got yourself a stew cooking.
Now, I have a segue from that. That's okay.
Yeah, man.
Because if this army is the ultimate hammer, we got to talk about, it was a meme, but it was the ultimate shield for a little while there. And I'm talking about the Plague Bearer lists. Right? Because that was a thing in the last year. Like, I know it doesn't feel like it's 2020 because it's been going for a long time. But, there was Menza, CanCon, a few other, like, even in this whole, like, Marine thing. And probably actually, I think it was a little bit before that actually, before like Marines got really heinous with the Chapter Masters and the Repulsors. 200 plus Plague Bearers. The Pus Bus. That was real for a while.
The Pus Bus.
I do feel like that was a little bit of an Australian special. Like the Aussies like horde armies. I feel like more than the Americans and the Brits. Like we've always kind of liked our horde lists. But boy, it wasn't the last CanCon, was it? It was the CanCon before that where Lee Abbey was playing like approaching 300 Plague Bearers. Essentially nothing in that list. And then Josh Brody was also playing like 200 Plague Bearers. And then Ducko was playing like 200 Plague Bearers. And somebody else was playing 200 Plague Bearers. And I remember distinctly because my rounds 4, 5, 6, day 2 of CanCon 2 years ago, I played someone, then Brody, then Duck. So 3 Plague Bearer lists in a row. And so over the course of that day, I killed approaching 1,000 Plague Bearers in that one day playing with my orcs. And eventually Ducko got me, which is really bizarre because they're essentially playing the exact same list. And you would have thought after I've done it twice, I would have really fine-tuned my way I could kill Plague Bearers. But no, that list was just, especially because at the time ITC was like, it just favored board control and not dying. So all you would do is just throw these models onto objectives and say, hey, deal with me. Like, I don't care if you kill me, I'm still just going to win the mission.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Like, I remember I was shoutcasting one of the games, I think with Adam Camilleri, and I think it was Lee Abbey versus somebody else. I can't remember who it was at the time, but they were both playing Plague Bearer lists, and and they made it to the middle, and we're like, do you think he's going to charge that unit of Plague Bearers at his unit of Plague Bearers? We were like, yeah. They charge, and then literally for 5 turns, Plague Bearers just stood in front of Plague Bearers holding objectives, and they just scored the game, like, without barely moving anything else. And we're like, well, that was a boring game. Sorry.
When an unstoppable force meets an immovable object.
They literally just stood there on the objectives like rolling Plague Bearers for the time. And they're like, casting.
That is the most boring game of 40k ever.
It was just, it was boring. The plague bus, boring bus. And sometimes you'd have like, a mixture of T-Suns smiting or something like that in there. But really, it was just like, I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't have found it fun to play.
Someone who moved all those Gretchen around, and you don't even roll attacks for Gretchen, or save to that matter. They just die. I got like carpal tunnel just playing that army. I can't imagine actually moving that many models that actually do things in the game. That'd be preposterous. I can't even imagine doing that.
You did really well to do that, but still.
Well, no, man, I had a support crew, as you know. I had Denise following me around, packing up my army.
Oh, yeah.
Between games.
And after games, you'd just be like... But the other one I was going to say was before... What were we talking about before the Plague Bus, Liam?
We were talking about Bangley Boys, Blood Angels.
Oh, yes. That still doesn't prompt me as to what army I was thinking of. I had such a good idea, but I forgot.
That's okay. I will segue from myself, from a lot of models to a very small amount of models. Because there was definitely a list, or like, a combination of lists, I suppose, that were extremely prevalent, for a long time. That was all those custody lists. Like, they really took me by surprise. Like, I'm pretty looking at a watch or Goonhammer. A little while ago, all the custody lists were just, the mech lists by and large. You had that biker list initially that very quickly sort of went out of favor. But then the list with all those hover tanks, and telemons and things, they got a bit more prevalent. But then, more recently, I suppose, with the, Psychic Awakening book, I think I saw, Denise, I think this was the event you and I played. We played at a Bris Vegas Comics RTT, and at the event, it was something like 20% of lists at this tournament were custodies.
Yeah,
and
it was.
All
it
of
was
them
Psycho,
were.
right?
Yeah, and all of them were like. I'm not like talking crap about them. They were good lists, but all of them were very much like one shield captain with Unstoppable Destroyer, one Telemon, the Neg 1 to hit banner, a unit of Alaris. Some of those jump dudes with pistols to kill everything in the universe.
It was just a unit of Venatari, like an Alaris brick, a Telemon, associated heroes, some chaff units. That was it.
Yeah, and like, it was very bizarre because it kind of took me by surprise, I guess, because that book had been out for a while, like it wasn't even that month that it came out. It was a couple of months old. And then all of the sudden, those lists came out of nowhere. And it wasn't just here. I remember looking actually at, one of the, New Zealand tournaments, that, I think, I can't remember if it was Adam Camilleri, but someone else posted the lists, in a chat and I had a bit of a look at them. And again, it was something like 20, approaching even a quarter of all the armies at this tournament were custodies. And this is an event of like 65, 70 players. And so many people were running custodies. And part of me thinks that the reason that's the case is that a custodian army is like, for 40k, like for plastic crack, it's pretty cheap to buy, right? Like, if list, and a custody army is the way to go, you can go to your local store and just buy that army for a couple of $100. Like, it's not preposterously expensive, right?
Yeah, and it takes like 40 minutes to paint it, so you're just done.
Yeah, the time delay was
the gold spray as well.
The time delay was people collecting the Custodes armies and painting them until it was ready.
Right.
Well,
yeah, that's the part of the hobby that I'm missing. Right.
Well, it was interesting because I think in 8th edition, the Custodes may have had a bit more trouble playing the actual ITC missions. But when 9th rolled in, I think people saw Custodes as a really good option because they're an army that can, I kind of call it when I'm talking to guys, like I call it like hitting an objective, charging it, and just sticking onto that objective, like a big hit and stick play, because they're so durable. So you throw an Alaris brick down the throat, sticks into the middle objective, and it's just so hard to move it. And then all those defensive strats that they got in their book, it was just amazing.
The strat to turn off all rerolls,
dude. Yeah,
you might as well just say this is the anti-Space Marine strat.
Yeah,
like,
and then Shadowkeeper's on top of all the other strats, like the Alaris getting the neg 1, neg 2, ignoring the AP, like the they got Transhuman, and Shadowkeeper's got a neg 1 strength strat. Like that is so applicable in so many matchups.
Yeah, for 1 CP, it's very strong.
What probably did it for the Custodes? I'm just having to think back at it. I reckon what probably really started them on the path to be a competitive army and be, to be honest, almost like a net list at some points, was the change of mission. Because you know what used to really screw them over? Gangbusters for ITC. Yeah. Remember that secondary where it was like every 6 wounds you did to multi-wound models or whatever, and you had to be 4 or more wounds per model, or 3 or more wounds or whatever.
Yeah.
So Space Marines didn't care, because all the Space Marine stuff was 2 wound then. Like, you didn't have 4 wound Centurion and all such nonsense. So when people were playing Gangbusters and you had a 1 unit of Alaris Custodians, you just kill that 1 unit and get, like, max secondary points, essentially. I remember that being really oppressive, actually.
Yeah, it was bad, but definitely in 9th, like, Custodes even still are thriving in terms of the way they can just play the game on their own.
And, 100%.
They're an incredible shieldless in a team environment, but also they're really solid in singles, because if you can't actually get in there, reach them, move them off an objective, they're going to get like 80 points sitting on their own.
And the Storm Shield change is actually not a meme. Like,
well,
when you have 0 up save, when you have 0 up save, like 3 wound toughness 5 models sitting on an objective, oh my god.
Well, even with the Storm Shield,
you have to be neg 3 even to change their save.
Well, even with the Storm Shield going to a 4-up, the Custodes Chapter Tactic increases their invulnerable save, so they still have 3-up invos. And on top of that, they have 0-up saves and cover.
What?
So, yeah, man, like, Custodes actually won with the Storm Shield change. It's really good.
Are you sure? Because I swear it says maximum of 4+.
No, it's 3+. But we might have to check this off the air. But yeah, like, a lot of people are really excited. Like, I know I've been talking to Darren, he's super excited about
them. Ridiculous.
Yeah, so the Storm Shield change helped them a lot because it pushes them to a 0-up in cover. Woo!
That's insane.
But yeah,
so
sorry, you go.
I was going to say one list I was thinking of, which is one that Liam brought to light in Australia, and it was terrifying at the time, was I don't actually know if it was this year or end of last year, but it was the Imperial Fist Brigade.
Oh, yeah.
Which was the Imperial Fist just owning the heavy doctrine and absolutely 3-shotting Eldar flyers. That was sick.
Yeah, that was pretty ridiculous. I think I played that list for ATC trials. Here in Queensland, we did some trials for the ATC team that ended up not going ahead. That actually was like this year, or at very end of last year, probably.
It was end of 19,
really
yeah.
long
I
year.
played it at when was it? I played it in February at the team.
Yeah, so Luke, in our team, you ran the Imperial Fist gun line with all the Stalker boys, yeah.
And it was still ridiculous. I remember I played Lockie, who had Eldar Flyers and Eldar Mech, and it was like, oh yeah, playing. Do you want a lightning fast? Yes. All right, hitting on 6s, 10 guys, 6 hits, 4 wounds. It's dead. He's like, oh, okay.
3 damage flat bolt gun.
Yeah, and I remember Hayden, one of our good mates, Hayden versus I think it was Simon at the time, had a hunter. Or a vehicle with a hunter killer missile. Was it a hunter or a hunter-killer missile? I can't remember. I think it was a hunter with a hunter-killer missile, and it had the strat where you double the damage or something.
Oh, the 12 damage hunter-killer missile.
Yeah, the 13 damage hunter-killer missile. Rolls a hunter-killer missile, hits, wounds, and does d6 damage, but because he hit it on like a 6 or wounded on a 6, it did double damage, and it was Imperial Fist, so it's 6 damage, which went to 12 damage, and it was +1 for heavy doctrine, so it was just 13 damage, one shot a plane with a hunter-killer missile.
That's fucking funny.
What on earth? Like, some of this stuff, I mean, GW is smoking some excellent resin. I mean, they are just, sometimes they do some silly.
And my favourite thing that's actually been changed, and you're going to hate this, Liam, was the changes to the shock attack guns. Because those things ruined my day every time I played them.
Really balanced and fair.
Okay, so the shock won't kill 900 points in a game now. It'll only kill 400. What a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually so funny playing like new Orc list at the moment because I don't need to budget like 10 to 12 CP a game just for my super touch shotgun. All I would put my CP in is more dagger, shoot twice, more dagger, shoot twice every turn.
Well, you know what's crazy when your list consists of 3 shock attack guns and 700 grots or something like that, you know, or 300 grots, whatever.
It was 360 and gas guns.
There you go. I mean, it went from 3 shock attack guns in every single orc list, no exceptions, to 0.
Yeah, you'd have to be mad not to run like what was basically a shadow sword mounted on a dude who could just sit behind the models. Like, preposterous.
What was it, Liam? Was it 84 points?
It's like
80 flat.
80 flat.
84
and then you get a little oiler. Yeah. And
the grot oiler. Yeah. Just for when the eliminators came out, people were like running eliminators, and you're like, haha, I've got my trusty grot oiler.
Yeah.
To take the wound.
And then, it used to get people really offside because, the codex strat to shoot twice for orcs is in your shooting phase, but then what's it called? What were they called? Vigilus. The Vigilus, stratagem for Dreadmob, allowed you to shoot twice just after shooting in the shooting phase. So what used to happen is, you used to like to jump a shock attack gun, turn 1, shoot a character and like kill it because, you know, you're shooting a shadow sword at little Jimmy and he dies. And then they'd shoot you back in their turn. And then when you died, you'd spend 2 CP to shoot. And then you go, cool, it's the shooting phase and I've shot, so now I spend 2 CP to shoot more. So you've shot a shock attack gun twice in your opponent's shooting phase. And they're like, what is even going on? I'm not even playing the game, I'm just getting shot by orcs in my own turn.
84 points. Woo!
Yeah. I played, Dan, I actually don't know Dan's last name, I'm really embarrassed about this. He's one of the Melbourne guys. He was playing a triple Baneblade.
Oh, Dan Martin.
No, sorry, not Dan Martin. It was Michael Hamilton, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Was playing triple Baneblades at like the first men's I ever went to. And I was literally playing, 30 Mega Nobs and 3 shock attack guns at that one. And that was Oz Masters, my bad. Anyway. And I literally had every single turn the souped up shocker just go, no, and just kill a Baneblade outright. Just that, like, completely 26 plus damage. And I was like, wow, that was really lucky. Shot next turn, kills the Baneblade. And he's like, oh, alright, well, I've got one left, third turn, kills one anyway. If it's unrecoverable, just he can't do anything about it, nothing's going right. Man, that gun was silly. I miss it a lot.
Oh, jeez. I guess that's actually a good moment for us to pivot into the start of 9th edition. You know, a brave new world of 9th. And I think you got the wrong song.
I actually can't even remember. Like, what even rose to the top early in 9th?
It starts with S. It starts with S and ends with Alamander.
Oh, yeah.
The Sally's,
Sisters of Amanda.
Alright, yeah.
I thought it was, yeah.
What did you think?
I was going to say what Liam said.
So, at the start of 8th, the start of 9th, both on tabletop, which is actually hard to do because coronavirus is going crazy, but what I saw a lot on TTS was a number of players gravitating towards the Gravis Salamander list.
Hang on. Sorry, Liam. Sorry, Denise, I got to interrupt you.
Yeah.
How many, just so everyone knows, how many TTS games did you play over the period?
Alright, so I was somewhat active on Tabletop Simulator.
Denise was a machine. He would work all day, play at like 2 a.m. at night to play with people overseas, and go back to work.
Yeah, so I realized 4 a.m. in Australia was a pretty good time to play Americans. So I would always wake up at 4, and 4 to 7 would be my TTS session. Rummy would wake up at 7. I'd get ready for work. I'd go to work at 7:30, and I'd work from 8 till 7, and then I'd come home and be like, wow, that was a long day. Because I've been up for 18 hours.
Better do it again.
But yeah.
And he played 3 different tournaments at the same time.
Yeah, there were some weeks where I had 3, 4 a.m. mornings. It was not ideal. But the best was when I went back and calculated how many tournament games I played on TTS, and it was 65 in 3 months. It was pretty fucking unreal. It was one every second day on average. But anyway, played a lot of TTS, and a lot of Salamanders list came out, Luke. So tell us a bit about the early 9th meta Salamanders that you saw.
The first experience I had with it was against Rory, and Rory played it for the first time, and I hadn't really experienced it yet. I set up my whole army. I was playing Grey Knights, and I go to shoot. I think it was, I can't remember what it was at the time. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna say self-sacrifice, whatever the stratagem is." I'm like, "Oh yeah, what's that do?" He's like, "You can't shoot my entire army." I'm like, "Sorry, can you repeat that for me?" He's like, "Yeah, you can't shoot because this. And I was like, "Okay, do you want to reset up and go again?" It was just the most ridiculous stratagem, and it was the silliest thing to play against. Do you want to explain it further?
Yeah, so it was essentially if you had a unit that was exposed, you could essentially Cloud of Flies it, providing another unit was closer. So you could just hide a squad of Thunderhammer Stormshield Termies in a building, and then have a unit behind it that could be shot. And they FAQ'd it so you couldn't do it with untargetable things, and you had to have a unit of 5 and more and stuff. And you have to declare it at the start of the shooting phase. But it was still such a strong strat because 9th, especially 9th, it punished you if you couldn't move into space. If you had to sit back shooting, it would really punish you. And some armies would have moving elements that would move up, but also supporting shooting elements. And those armies that required both those elements to work, Sallies would shut them down. 100% shut them down. Because the Sallies go, cool, you're going to hit me with a little obsec unit when I'm down, but you're not going to be able to get me down because you can't shoot me. And that was huge. And then when you come into combat, the Sallies overwatch you hard with Flamers. They can supporting fire overwatch with more Flamers and heroic 2d6. Their units can be nigh unkillable in combat with, neg 1 to wound strats and transhuman and things. And all the aggressors, guess what? They can punch on. So it was a really, well and truly a perfect storm for 9th. It was really, really strong at the start.
At this time as well, Marines could stay in whatever doctrine they wanted for the whole game. So you've got the aggressors and stuff with the bolt guns and the flamers, and they can just be tac doctrine all day.
Oh, I think
everything could still fight twice.
At the start of 9th, they had changed that, but it was still you'd be in tac doctrine for 3 out of the you'd be in the doctrine you want for 3 to 4 out of the 5 turns. Still, it was still pretty hectic.
Yeah, it was still pretty silly.
Yeah, I think we might actually take a little segue into some Australian-made, Australian-owned lists, Liam. I can actually think of one you made up that I played on TTS. 60 Possessed Marines as creations of Vile.
Here we go.
Send it, Liam.
Fabulous Billy Bob coming in.
Tell us a
story. That was fun, man.
Dude, it was so much fucking fun.
Yeah, dude. So, when War of the Spider, one of the Psychic Awakening books came out, one of the things that we got was essentially an extra Legion trait for Chaos Space Marines that was, to be perfectly honest, and I say this with love, probably some of the worst written rules GW has ever made, and this specifically the creations of Vile stuff. Because all of the stratagems and stuff were sort of weirdly worded and kind of used commas in creative, almost Shakespearean goddamn ways that you could read a lot of these stratagems and warlord traits and stuff, sort of do pretty janky stuff with them. So I was playing with Creations of Art because I really like the fluff for Bile, to be honest. And I wrote it as a bit of a meme list, and I proxied it and put it on the table. And I was like, Denise, this is actually raw power.
Yeah.
There's actually something to note.
This was as I was trying to put a list together for like the TTS invitationals. It was like the top 16 for the first season of TTS, and I'm like, Liam, I'm playing your list, and I'm going to give you all the credit whenever anyone asks.
It was actually sick. So it was literally just Bile, some Havocs, some troops, sorcerers and other characters, and then 60 Marker Khorne possessed. Because it was dumb, right? So the only problem with possessed, essentially, was that you needed to make them Mark of Nurgle to give them advance and charge with the poo tree that Nurgle demons got. It was kind of like one of the only ways you give them advance and charge. But then you make them Bile, and not only do they get +1 movement and strength for their Legion trait, but then there's a 1 CP stratagem to give them advance and charge and +1 advance and +1 charge. Man, I would happily pay 2 CP for that stratagem. Like, that was a ridiculously powerful stratagem. But then, like, you go and read all these Bile strats. Oh, the Monstrous Visages strat. Denise, tell us a story.
Is that the neg 1 to hit one?
Yeah, that's the neg 1 to hit one.
So I'm pretty sure you use it either at the start of your opponent's turn or start of their movement phase or something, but you select
It's in any phase.
In any phase, okay, holy shit. So, and you select one Creations of Bile unit, and any enemy unit that's within 6 inches of that unit is just neg 1 to hit. So, like, turn 1, you throw 20 Possessed Marines, down the throat, kill something important, touch a whole army, and then they move or they fall back, whatever, start their shooting phase, bam, neg 1 to hit blanket, just on their whole army. Crazy.
Yeah.
Because that possessed unit... Sorry, you go.
No, all I was going to say is it got, like, when I played a few games of it, the thing is, it's 20 32 mil bases per unit. So you've got this 20-man unit that theoretically, with advance and charge and warp time, has already covered, like, half of your opponent's deployment zone. And then, oh no, they're aggressive to you, so in their shooting phase, you do Monstrous Visages. And then in their charge phase, you do Monstrous Visages. And then in their fight phase, you do Monstrous Visages. And now all 60 of your possessed have this aura that lasts until the start of your next turn.
Yeah.
You can just do this strat in your own turn, and it lasts for ages. Like, it lasts for 4 phases.
It's nuts. It's absolutely insane. And the best bit is...
It was lightning fast for 1 CP for like a whole turn.
But it was like an aura of lightning fast off the unit. So, like, when you think about a bomb unit, like a Bloodletter bomb, imagine if, like, a Bloodletter bomb or an Acolyte bomb or a Vanguard Veteran unit could hit, but also give a blanket of neg 1 to hit. And that's what this 20 Possessed Brick was doing, because it's so annoying to shift. Like, so annoying to shift. And, like, when you put that onto a gun line, like, I remember playing against an AdMech player, and I would just shoot that unit up, like, kill a whole bunch of breaches, touch his little tanks, and then bam. And then the AdMech was like, oh, I can't shoot very well anymore. So...
It's pretty silly, actually. That almost makes me want to play that again.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun playing it, man. And you know what that list showed me? It actually showed that you could play a horde of more than 11 models in 9th with the coherency rules, and it's actually not bad. You can do it just fine. You just, like, need to...
I think people got really scared of that at the start, didn't they? They were like, oh my god, I have to take
everyone
less than 10 models.
Everyone I played was like, hey man, just letting you know, I'm going to be really linear with coherency. It's totally fine. I know it's hard. I'm like, no, just play by the rules. It's actually alright. You just need to think about it every time you move them, and it's fine. Like, I don't think I ever had an issue with coherency there. So, it's fine. Yeah, and it's a good, that kind of set the pace for me to think, oh, hordes aren't dead. You can still play big units.
So there was some lists that I was thinking about, which was surprising. What about the AdMech list that came out of the blue?
Oh yeah, Engine War was great, mate.
Because Engine War brought the fucking Engine War. That's for sure.
All right, Luke, hit us with the good stuff.
Well, the 30 breach list turned into still 30 breaches, but they just became ridiculous. I think you could give them like +1 to move. You could give them +1 to strength with Mars, or there was like different custom Forge Worlds, which was like enhanced data tether node cores or something, which was a 5 feel no pain and exploding. exploding sixes to hit, fives and sixes hit with arc weapons. And the arc weapons were like strength 6, neg 2 or something. Can't remember if it's neg 2.
Luke, can you spare a minute to talk about our Lord and Saviour, the gas dog?
The gas dog?
The sulfur hounds?
You mean the sulfur hounds? Yeah.
And what are they called? The Cerberus Raiders? They're amazing.
And even the Stygi, or the sterilizers or whatever, they've got the most creative names, but the sulfur hounds were, if they could move up, they were perfect scouting units for 9th edition. They move up, take objectives, shoot off some small units, or even do a little bit of damage, because I think the Pistolier could target characters or something. Or maybe that's the other unit, but I can't remember.
No, yeah, there was a unit that could target characters. I think we're having trouble describing AdMech because none of us actually play it. But
we're all just here like, yeah. I got fucked by this.
Yeah. So I guess the premise with the list, like, AdMech shooting got really strong with some of the stacking auras they got in Engine War. And on top of that, they were an army that kind of was like Tau for a bit, how they did certain things really well, but the second you add some variety to it, they became awesome. And they didn't have that variety. They didn't have units that could fill slots, but now they do. Like the jump pack dudes, the way you can use priests, the transports they have now, the out of line of sight shooting, and the doggos, like that AdMech, like sandbox is just amazing. And there's so many cool builds that are coming out. It's not just robots. Like there are AdMech lists that are kicking ass that have 0 robots. So
yeah, it's insane. Our very own Josh McGowan, who's head of Gladiator Gaming, he's actually been one of the guys sort of pioneering the AdMech. He showed it at he actually showed them at the Brisbane GT. He went 4-1. And he was just going on about how crazy the Sulphur Hounds were, how they could move up, shoot, and then when people tried to charge them, he could fall back instead of shooting, which is just insane.
Yeah, and we're talking about an edition where like moving in the charge phase and just getting to places is so important. And, when it's so important, an army or a unit that does that, it's so strong. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess we probably have time to maybe talk about one list, and I'm going to finish where we started at the top end with some White Scars Vanguard bets.
Oh, here we go.
So, we've had some very strong Marine builds in the past year, but one that is kicking butt. John Lennon won, I think it was a GT somewhere in America with it. Might be the Iron Halo, I can't remember. But, White Scars, kicking butt. Now, they have a lot of stuff going well for them. One of the great things they have is 2 damage lightning claws after turn 3. But yeah, have any of you guys played against the White Scars, the aggressive White Scars list? I know, Liam, you and me were both trialing some Intercessor lists. What's your experience with them?
I mean, I think one of the things that made these lists ridiculous was actually how impulses were at the time as well. I mean, like there are obviously some crazy strong melee units in there, but like when you had an impulsor that could move, they moved like 14 or 16 or something, and then you spent 2 CP to move them a second time, and then the intercessors could disembark after that. I know they can't charge, but that's like you're in your opponent's board turn 1 to do secondaries. It was actually ridiculous. It was so strong and hard to play around. But then the crazy thing about White Scars was, fallback and charge is a really, everyone knows it's good, but it's a preposterously underrated ability. Because you can't high things up. Against really good players, people know how to mitigate damage and mitigate units. But boy, just playing White Scars, it's the same as playing Harlequins, but they're Space Marines. It just got worse and worse and worse.
Oh, they're playing two wound Harlequins with 2-up armor. It's amazing. Don't have a Troop Master? I got a Lightning Claw.
Yeah, they're insane. They're who plays it here? Stephen Wade. He plays them with
Wade's
the Outriders.
Butt with them.
Yeah,
he kicks some ass with that list.
Yeah. But yeah, the fallback and charge, it's so underrated. I mean, you have an army that can't be sort of shut down. I don't know. It's pretty effective.
Yeah, and it's like it forces you to kill it, like physically kill it, to take it out of the game. And, you commit fire to it, transhuman, or if they're bikers, neg 1 to hit. And if you don't kill it all the way, I'm going back to my apothecary to get picked up for 2 turns, then I'm going to hit your turn 5. Mm-hmm. So, there's so much going on. And just advance and charge on jump pack units and bikers, like the fact, like I'm playing Deathwatch at the moment, and Deathwatch have a stratagem to give someone a chapter tactic, or give a unit a chapter tactic, 9 times out of 10, it's goddamn White Scars for an advantage charge, because it's so good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's amazing.
But yeah. So for the last one, this is a list that came out of the blue as well. After the index rules for Dark Angels, they came out of the blue. Everybody ended up having some Dark Angels Terminators just saved in their closet for some reason.
For a rainy day.
Yeah. Denise, you're a pioneer of this one. What did you think about this?
So this Dark Angels list, in my humble opinion, was on the same level of ridiculous that the Iron Hands was, because it's such a non-interactive piece of shit. Like the list has, permanent transhuman, which is straight off the bat bonkers. That was upon release. That was when the Terminators went to 3 wounds. They could still sit under a 5 field no pain banner. You could still auto turn off a psychic power. You had a relic that had a 3-inch aura of -1 invo. And then all of a sudden, Dark Angels got +1 to hit when they didn't move that turn. And, obviously that's good for shooting, but that also meant when your Power Fist got charged, they hit at weapon skill, not at -1. It means that, if you have a Power Fist and you fist to the first on top of that, you hit on 2s, because it's -1+2 is still a +1. So there's so many interesting applications for that ability. But the addition of the Chief Apothecary, the addition of Eradicators, the addition of Plasma Inceptors to that whole, setting, just made the Dark Angels silly. Like, I was running a list with, between 15 to 20 Terminators. They had a command squad that, if they were within 3 inches of a character, you couldn't shoot a character, even if it was the closest. So snipers can't get past that because it's not the lookout sir rule. Like, it was just some incredible rules writing by GW in that Dark Angel supplement. And, I remember taking it to the Bridge Vegas event, and at the end of the tournament, I went, Liam, that was the most boring tournament I've ever played, and I went 3-0. And I immediately jumped to Deathwatch after that.
Didn't, in one of the games, you literally play, like, a mirror of your own list?
Yeah, and I honestly it was whoever picked the most secondaries. I stayed in my home field. My opponent came at me and bounced, as you do when Dark Angels Termies fight Dark Angels Termies, you bounce. And, I won by 3 points. And then, in that tournament, the 3 rounds in that tourney, I left my board half, not my deployment zone, but I left my half of the board once in 3 games. So, it was an interesting list that kind of still exists. It's still a functional list, but I think the other marine archetypes are probably a little bit stronger in terms of their versatility.
Yeah, exactly. Versatility. Yep.
But that list was interesting.
Mm-hmm. It was terrifying. It was so sad to play against. You're like, yes, all my massive unit hits yours, kill one model, you bring it back. Cool, let's go again.
I just want to make a quick point. Whenever I find something really cool, I go over to Luke's and play it, and Luke just destroys it with a random Eldar list or a random Harlequin list, and I'm like, I'm bad at this. But I think I played 6 games with that Dark Angels list before the tournament, and I lost 5 of them. And I was like, this has limitations. Because it just exists, it doesn't do much.
Move.
Yeah, it can't move, right?
Yeah, you have to sort of adapt your playstyle. You have to really know the strengths of the list and adopt that sort of playstyle. Whereas I think, Denise, you're more
has been an absolute roller coaster for these lists.
Uh-huh. But Denise, you're more of a Swiss party knife. Swiss Army knife party knife. Swiss Army knife.
What are you doing?
Here's a party knife.
Yeah, 100%. And the Deathwatch army I'm playing at the moment definitely suits that a lot more. But well, I guess any more lists you guys want to talk about? I think we've exhausted a fair few.
No, they're kind of like the big kingpins of 2020 and late 2019, I guess. So
it's definitely a very interesting ITC season, and I guess tournament season pretty much between ATC, WTC to now. There's been a lot of change, but yeah, guys. Well, I'd like to thank the two of you and Jordan as well, who's probably listening for a great year. We've done a lot of eps this year. It's been sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've interviewed a lot of cool people, and we've got a lot of new listeners. But yeah, I guess before we wrap up, any closing remarks for 2020, boys?
I'd just like to say thanks, listeners, for sort of supporting us through this. So we wouldn't be able to basically like keep doing this if we thought there wasn't a good support basis for us. So we really appreciate everybody who listens and gives us feedback. It means a lot to us. And it's kind of like Liam and I talk about this all the time. It's kind of like an awesome feeling to know when you're at a tournament and people come up to you and talk to you about the podcast. It's an awesome feeling that, I can't really describe personally. So, thank you very much for your support throughout the year, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. 100%. And if anyone does have feedback, please pop the podcast a message on Facebook or however you want to do it. I mean, we are happy to be here for you. We're obviously here because we love the game and we love the podcast, and we hope you love it too.
Yeah, well said, gents. And look forward to some new and exciting content from us in 2021. Me and Luke and a few of the other Norway sides, Liam as well. We're all heading down to Uprising Adelaide. Liam's playing in the Masters, and me and Luke will be assisting the Art of War guys and streaming the Masters. And we're all playing in the ITC event, so we're looking forward to it. But thanks for listening, guys. Enjoy your Christmas and New Year, and we'll see you in 2021.
Good 2021.